Hey, what's going on, everybody? Ethos here from mmomobomb.com. As your residential, shooter guy, I am taking a first look at Spectre Divide, a multiplayer tactical shooter that recently went into full release. Now, for full context, I was able to play this game a month or two ago. I was on the press docket for this game, and I got a chance to play during a playtest when they allowed some creators and streamers to play this game. So I've had a lot of time on this game. My review is going to be more focused on the full release of this game and to talk a little bit about like what the game is, what's been added to the game if you did play during the closed beta, and just talking about any sort of controversy that the game currently has right now, and just to give you a good idea of, where the game currently is at and if it's a good fit for you. So without further ado, there's a lot of things to cover. Let's get into it. If you don't know, Spectre Divide is a 3v3 tactical shooter, and one of its main innovations is the Duality system. So this Duality system allows players to control two bodies simultaneously. You control your main character, which is yourself, and then a Spectre. And the cool thing about this mechanic is that they allow you to swap at will. What you actually have here is, while it is 3v3, 3 real players versus 3 real players, there's actually 6 players who are fighting on the map all at once. Now, like I said, you can swap in between them at will, but your own body and the Spectre that you control, not your allies' Spectres. Though that would be kind of cool, I think, maybe as a future funny game mode. Now, obviously, if you think about this, this is pretty unique and different because I would say over the past couple of years, the last big, tactical shooter to come out probably was Valorant. And I think one of the criticisms that Valorant had is that too many people felt like it was just CSGO, or it was just CSGO with fireballs, or just CSGO with like hero shooter type of abilities. And for the better or worse, I guess that was its key innovation, and it is a very popular shooter right now on the market. But some people have perceived that as not really doing enough or doing too much, depending on the person who may ask. So this game takes a little bit of a different direction. This key innovation is something that's pretty different, and I think it's going to be the biggest obstacle that a lot of new players have to get over, is this idea of thinking about the way that you engage in the sandbox differently than you would playing like CSGO or Valorant, or just any shooter in general. Having a clone of yourself on the field that you can swap bodies in between really allows you to do a lot of interesting strategies, such as like flanking yourself, watching your own sight line. So if you have your character moving towards a certain direction and you need another person to watch another sight line, you could have yourself cover your own back in a way. You can also do very interesting things on defense, such as you can have both bodies basically on different sites. So you can have one of you on A and the other one on B. So that means you're never really caught off of being like opposite of where the team's actually pushing. Or you can put all your marbles into one area by putting both your clone and yourself on the same bomb site. So if they do push you, you do have way more defenses. It does give you a lot of interesting possibilities that I think like a lot of tactical shooters don't, or a lot of those feels bads where like you choose wrong and you're kind of like, I'm out. It also helps you with information because you can kind of use your first, life as bait, where you can kind of figure out where the enemy's coming from, or potentially swinging on a situation that normally you wouldn't, but since you technically have like 2 lives instead of 1, you can swing the first time and then try to follow it up with a second try to win it, or just to get the information, or make more aggressive plays that normally a person that only has 1 life might not normally do. This creates some really excellent moments, and I will say during my time playing during the playtest and a little bit after post-launch, it did allow me to do some really cool things. I remember one time what I did was I had one of my Spectre basically that I was controlling. I had him hold one angle, and then I had myself hiding basically on the flank. So what happened was I would bait opponents into fighting my Spectre, and I would back off with the Spectre. I would shoot at them, I would back off. Now they would probably aggressively, without thinking about it, rush to try to kill me, but then I would swap to my real self and I would kill them from a different angle. And then I would move and then do the same thing back and forth. This allows for a lot of really cool psychological tactics that you can try in this game that I think are pretty hilarious. This game does feature a cel-shaded anime type aesthetic, and it does take place in this futuristic sci-fi type world. And I think one of the biggest selling points of this game is of course the news that one of the biggest streamers, Shroud, was a gameplay advisor for this game. So he not only was, I believe on top of that, he was an investor as well for this project, but he also advised the dev team and gave them, as I talked with the developers and they told me, he was really hands-on with the project. It wasn't just, just write some notes or something like that. Like, he was integral for how they balanced the game, and also as they were introducing these different mechanics and working on them, Shroud gave really good feedback and even some suggestions and ideas to further ensure the integrity of like the competitive space when it comes to this game would be pretty good. One interesting thing of the design that I want to point out is, unlike a lot of like hero shooters, is that they wanted to ensure that the competitive integrity of like the multiplayer was solid, and they really wanted the game to rely more on skill than your abilities. So they actually have removed ultimate abilities altogether. So there's no like flashy gimmicks in this game. There are no abilities that just are built to just one-shot people and to kill them fast. A lot of them are very tactical in nature and used to either deny enemies from touching a certain area, or reduce visibility, or shield or create new walls of protection, or even protecting, or even, throwing like I think the closest thing to something that really could kill somebody is the grenade. But it's very easy to dodge, but there is like aggro or assault type abilities that you can use to like push people off of a certain like position so that your team can then push in. This was originally an idea that I think Valorant originally said that they were aiming towards, but it seems like as they have made new characters, the opposite has happened. Interesting enough, though, one of the way that they handle this is they use this system called a sponsor. So instead of there being like specific like characters or hero characters like they have in Valorant, you are your own character and you can customize yourself and also your Spectre, and you pick a sponsor, and this sponsor has the kit. So there's like 3 abilities that you get as part of this kit, and these kits fit certain like play styles, like like smokes, playing aggressive, like I said, frag grenade, flash grenades, or maybe even some other very tricky like things that can maybe cause like visual tricks, or little like confusion mechanics, or something that can help like lock down a location or give you intel. Some very interesting stuff. No ability really like out of the wheel of something you haven't seen before in another different form or factor in another game, but still nice to see. You do get 4 of them off rip, but there are 4 other ones that you can unlock via progression, or you could buy them to bypass the time. Since the release of Spectre Divide, I will say, and I've said this since playing the playtest, is that I really have to give it credit for its movement and also its tight shooting mechanics. So Spectre Divide isn't exactly a one-to-one of CSGO and Valorant. If you have tried those games, you know exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to the way that the guns aim and the gunplay. It's very different than playing something compared to like Call of Duty. The way that recoil works with those games are completely different. I would say that this game actually isn't like that. It's actually more closer to something like Rainbow Six Siege and Apex. As a matter of fact, some of the devs worked on Apex. The ADS is actually encouraged in this game, unlike in CSGO and Valorant, where usually most people, like, there is no ADS or they don't encourage you to use it, and like standing still. This game actually encourages you to use ADS, and also you're allowed to move. Moving doesn't just immediately make your gun completely worthless. You are allowed to move and shoot without your guns basically becoming complete trash. But you will still be the most accurate if you're still or walking, and there is no sprint in the game, interesting enough, but there is still like a big emphasis on footsteps, so like walking so you can avoid people from hearing you, or when you walk, you do have a solid movement speed, but there is no sprint. So it's kind of finding like a middle ground between Apex and Call of Duty being on one extreme and like Valorant and CSGO being on the other, somewhere right in the middle, where if you're a person that's interested in playing a shooter that requires you to use your brain a little bit more, but you didn't like Valorant or CSGO because of those gameplay mechanics, you might find a home here that you might like really actually end up enjoying with a lot of replay value, if you are a fan of like competitive shooters, or you're looking for something a little bit different to scratch that itch. Another thing that's also going into it is a little bit of the progression, but specifically into the cash shop. And there's been a little bit of controversy, I think, which I think was interesting enough. When I played the game a month or 2 ago, I really came out of it like really impressed. I really like the mechanics of the game. I like the innovation they've done with the duality system. The one thing that I couldn't see, of course, was how their monetization was going to work out. And so now that we are able to see the full picture. And I went onto Steam to download the game to check it out. I was actually shocked to find that this game had got mixed review scores. And I was like, wow. I thought at least it would get either very positive or mostly positive off rip. And I found that most of the mix going through the reviews, it felt like 80% of the reviews were focused on the cash shop or the monetization of the game, while 20% of it was either not for me, or they actually didn't like Duality, the amount of like processing your brain has to do to use this new mechanic. So I want to get into a little bit about the cash shop and how it works. It's very similar to Valorant. So if you played Valorant or any sort of free-to-play game, it's very simple. There's a cash shop. You can get skins, cosmetics from the shop, and you pay real money for them. Pretty sure there was like no skins I saw that were just like, oh, just play the game and use the in-game currency. All of it is like you have to use paid currency to unlock these. Now, really, what happened was the quote-unquote, like the community perceived a bundle or a couple bundles that the game had as kind of delusional. They had one bundle at the top as their feature bundle that was even cut on sale, according to the developer, as priced as high as $90, which was a little bit insane. Even comparing it to Valorant had a similar controversy when they launched their like premium skin line. I think if I remember back, it was like the Elder Dragon skin line. But the reason why that one was different was because of how animated it was and had cool animations and effects. And they were like, this is like a premium skin line. Not all your skins will be this expensive, but this is just an example of one. And even that got a little bit of pushback. This, on the other hand, it's kind of hard with the art style that they have and also the animation style. They're just, for a lot of players, it wasn't enough for someone to justify $90 for these 5-6 skins. And not only that, it follows Valorant system further, where not only are you just buying the skin, but to get the cool animations just like Valorant, you have to get that other currency in order to like unlock it. So this caused like a major backlash, and within one day, Shroud, I think, even publicly said like, "Hey, I'm talking to the developers. They'll get it figured out." The developers immediately, like one day after that, they said, "We're listening to the community," and they responded by reducing all the prices across the board. Where this top bundle that originally was $90 was still $70, and just everything across the board got basically cut down a little bit, like by like $20 or I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but you get the idea. However, still, many players still felt a little bit unhappy by this, and particularly they were also a little bit upset by the choice that the developers said that they would not refund in the actual money. So instead of refunding like people who might have paid for the in-game currency, they just refunded the currency. So if you bought that skin line, you basically got your money back from the difference. But they wouldn't do like full-on refunds, which I get. It's like you kind of already saw what the prices were and you bought into that system, so why would I refund you just because there's a reduction? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So on that aspect, makes sense. But still, the pricing, it's a little bit difficult because a lot of people have perceived this game, I've seen it as Valorant Lite, or it's supposed to be like Valorant, but it really doesn't play like that. If you're being genuine and you've played the game, anyone who's played the game knows this game does not play anything like Valorant. It really doesn't. From the gunplay, the closest thing you have is like, certain smokes and stuff like that are very similar, but they're two different styles of game. They look similar, but people perceive it as though it's stylized, so they must be the same. The other thing that, unfortunately, is that the developers behind this game are self-publishing this, meaning they have no publisher arm. They're pretty much self-financing this through some investments as well, with some esports, or not esports, like some esports players as well. Some pro players, I think, also have backed this game through their own personal investments, whatever that means. So you have all these running wheels, and they have to find out, one, how we're going to make money so that we can start hopefully making a profit off of how much money we spent making this game. And then on top of that, ensuring we have enough profit to keep the game going from a server perspective. I think at the time, I read somewhere that they were like around like 20K or 8K to 20K players. So they have a solid player base here. Obviously, that number probably dives off a little bit after launch because of this. And the other little disappointing thing, me personally, was I played this game a lot in beta. I played this game a lot during the playtest. I put in, I think, over 10 hours in the playtest. And I put about 3 to 4 hours into the final product. One of the things that were a little bit disappointing was the lack of like new stuff. Like when we got to play it, we got all to see all the sponsors, all the weapons are all still there. And then we got access to the I guess the maps, which there was only one brand new map. We played 3 maps during the playtest. They were all still there, and then there was just one brand new map, which the new map is nice, but I kind of was hoping there'd be at least like 3 more new maps on top of that launch. So it's kind of a little bit, not even disappointing, but just a little bit like, okay, treading similar ground as to what I put in a lot of time into during the beta period, and now just getting the final product and just being more of the same. Now, good news is that they did launch ranked, so I think that's going to keep me engaged with it, but I do think they need to release like new content, and I'm not saying they need to make new weapons, but just new like maps or additional sponsors. And speaking of that, just another little controversy that the game had was the sponsor system, which is like the kits that your character picks from, which can decide what abilities you have, like grenades, flashbangs, smokes, that sort of thing. Interesting enough, the 4 at the bottom that you have to unlock, like I said, they put it behind a time gate. So you either have to put in a lot of experience, like playing the game, and then you get experience points, and then you use the experience points to unlock that said in sponsor, or you pay with real money. And again, this is also it's a line, like you're tipping over the line, because if you're worried about your competitive integrity, you would ensure that every player gets access to every tool that can be utilized in this competitive environment. But if you have certain tools that are basically time gated, that means that certain players who might not put in as much time as other players might not have access to the same tools. And I felt that day one where certain players were already using some of the other sponsors that I just didn't have access to, like the one that disorients you with a clone, or disorients your vision. I saw that one being used quite a bit, and I wanted to use it, and I was like, where is this one? And I found out it was locked, and I just didn't have it unlocked unless I pay them a little under like $10. I think it was like $7 to $8. So like stuff like that, it does bring up those questions, that little bit of controversy, where I can see how some gamers get turned off by this and be like, oh, this feels like another free-to-play game that's trying to exploit me. But I will say that I am happy to report that the devs are listening, and they are making changes to this game. And when I talked to them a month ago, they were truly genuine people that do care about this project, and they do love the game that they did build. So, I think it's just a little bit of adjustment, but I think with a couple of changes and listening to the community and adding a few brand new things to the game, I think that this game has a lot of potential. At its core, really, Spectre Divide is really, in my opinion, this actually innovative skill-based tactical shooter that has a pretty unique system, easy to read visuals, and satisfying gunplay, and you can play it for the low price of free. Of course, the cash shop controversy has stirred up a little bit of negative reaction, hence the review score, but I do want to stress that that is just one aspect that can be easily changed and adjusted, and it doesn't really impact, in my opinion, the core gameplay loop in the game, which I think is actually really well done. So that's pretty much my thoughts on Spectre Divide. Let me know, what do you think? Do you think that the core gameplay makes it worth playing despite the couple of bit of issues that they've run into day one? Are you excited to try this game, or are you good because there's just so much stuff out right now? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching. Catch you guys later.